Hideki Tojo, Japan's wartime prime minister from 1941 to 1944, was a general whose name is synonymous with unimaginable brutality. Under his command, the Imperial Japanese Army unleashed a reign of terror. The Rape of Nanjing, where 300,000 civilians were massacred, the Bataan Death March, where thousands of POWs perished, and biological experiments on prisoners that defy humanity. His policies led to millions of deaths. Some estimate 3 to 14 million civilians and POWs through massacre, starvation, and forced labor. In this harrowing documentary, we dissect Tojo's atrocities through psychology and psychoanalysis, probing the mind behind one of history's deadliest regimes. Why focus on Hideki Tojo? Because his crimes weren't just orders from a desk. They were the product of a psyche twisted by discipline, ambition, and a chilling belief in his own righteousness, making him a prime subject for psychological analysis. His methods were monstrously systematic, blending state-sponsored slaughter with sadistic precision. Picture Nanjing, December 1937. Japanese soldiers under Tojo's Guangdong army stormed the city. Over 6 weeks, they butchered 300,000 men, women, children, bayoneting babies, raping thousands, piling bodies in ditches until the Yangtze runs red. Eyewitness John McGee, an American missionary, filmed the carnage. Corpses stacked like firewood, streets slick with blood. Or the Bataan Death March, 1942. 70,000 American and Filipino POWs forced to march 65 miles under Tojo's orders, beaten, starved, beheaded if they fell. Survivors described skulls crushed under boots, men buried alive. These weren't impulsive acts. They were Tojo's vision of dominance, a psychological puzzle we're here to unravel. To understand Tojo, we got to start where it all began, Tokyo, 1884. Hideki Tojo was born the third son of Hidenori Tojo, a stern lieutenant general in the Imperial Japanese Army. His 2 older brothers died before he was born, thrusting him into the spotlight as the family's hope to carry the military legacy. Psychoanalytically, this is a textbook narcissistic wound. The pressure to fill the void left by dead siblings can breed a desperate need for validation. Growing up in Kajamachi, a rigid military district, Tojo was steeped in bushido, the samurai code of honor and discipline. His father's cold, authoritarian parenting, described by biographers as unyielding, likely sparked what psychologists call insecure attachment, where a kid learns love is conditional on performance. By age 6, Tojo's life was drills and dogma. No playdates, no softness, just a father who saw weakness as betrayal. This environment screams repressed aggression, a Freudian concept where bottled-up anger festers, waiting to explode. School wasn't much better. Tojo entered the Army Cadet School at 15, a brutal academy where hazing and corporal punishment were the norm. Classmates called him Razor for his sharp mind and unforgiving discipline, but behind the nickname was a kid internalizing a brutal lesson. Power equals survival. Psychologists might diagnose early signs of obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, not the hand-washing kind, but an obsession with control, order, and perfection that later fueled his ruthless policies. His childhood wasn't just strict. It was a pressure cooker, molding a man who saw the world as a battlefield where only the strongest deserved to live. Fast forward to 1905. Tojo graduates from the Imperial Japanese Army Academy, a rising star in a military obsessed with expansion. His stint as a military attaché in Germany exposes him to Prussian discipline and nationalism, feeding his belief in Japan's divine destiny. Psychoanalytically, this is where his grandiose narcissism takes root, a belief he's not just a soldier but chosen instrument of the emperor, a living god. By 1937, as chief of staff of the Guangdong Army in Manchuria, Tojo's leading operations that set the stage for the Second Sino-Japanese War. His role in the Marco Polo Bridge incident, sparking full-scale invasion, shows a man addicted to what psychologists call sensation-seeking behavior, craving the chaos of conquest to feel alive. But it's Nanjing that marks his descent. Tojo, though not on the ground, was complicit as a senior officer overseeing the Guangdong Army's campaigns. The Rape of Nanjing wasn't a one-off. It was policy. Japanese soldiers, trained to dehumanize the Chinese, committed atrocities under orders Tojo endorsed. Dr. Robert O. Wilson, a surgeon in Nanjing, testified at the Tokyo trials. I saw women disemboweled, children hacked apart, men burned alive. Psychoanalytically, Tojo's moral disengagement let him justify this as war necessity, a defense mechanism where victims become subhuman. His OCPD traits, obsession with control, manifested in meticulous plans for occupation, ensuring no dissent survived. This wasn't just war, it was a sadistic purge, reflecting a psyche that found order in annihilation. By 1941, Tojo's prime minister, a virtual dictator holding multiple portfolios, army, war, commerce. His approval of Pearl Harbor, despite generals' doubts, shows a messianic narcissism, a belief he alone could reshape Asia. The attack kills 2,403 Americans, but it's the aftermath where Tojo's cruelty shines. The Bataan Death March, ordered under his regime, was a death sentence disguised as logistics. Survivors recounted horror. Men too weak to walk were bayoneted on the spot, their screams echoing through the jungle. Tojo's policies also greenlit Unit 731, where scientists under his authority conducted biological experiments, vivisecting prisoners, injecting plague, freezing limbs. One Chinese survivor testified, "They cut me open while I was awake, laughing as I screamed." Psychologically, this points to sadistic personality disorder, where inflicting suffering validates power. Tojo's victims, Chinese civilians, Allied POWs, even dissenting Japanese, were chosen to reinforce his vision of a greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. Psychoanalytically, this reflects splitting, where he saw the world in black and white, Japan as divine, others as vermin. His paranoia, likely fueled by Japan's isolation and his own rigid upbringing, suggests a persecutory delusion, seeing enemies everywhere, justifying preemptive slaughter. The public nature of his atrocities, massacres reported in Japanese propaganda, fed his narcissistic need for awe, a twisted bid to be revered as a god of war. So what made Tojo this way? Let's unpack the psyche. His childhood, devoid of warmth, left him with repressed aggression that erupted in militarism. The loss of his brothers and his father's expectations created a replacement child syndrome, where he felt he had to be perfect to justify his existence. This pressure, combined with Bushido's glorification of violence, wired him for authoritarian personality traits, blind loyalty to hierarchy, intolerance for weakness. His OCPD drove his obsession with Japan's supremacy, while his narcissism made him believe he was its savior. Add a dash of groupthink from the militaristic culture around him, and you got a man who saw genocide as duty. Tojo's victim selection was strategic. Chinese to crush resistance, POWs to break Allied morale, dissenters to silence doubt. His methods, mass executions, biological warfare, were chosen for maximum terror, aligning with terror management theory, where fear cements control. Media reports from the time, like the Washington Post, note Tojo's chilling calm at the Tokyo trials, smiling as atrocities were detailed, a sign of psychopathic detachment. His ability to compartmentalize, running a family life with his wife Kitsuko and 7 kids, while ordering millions dead, shows a fractured ego, a man who lived in 2 worlds, doting father, merciless warlord. Let's not sugarcoat the horror. Nanjing streets were a slaughterhouse. Japanese soldiers, under Tojo's chain of command, held killing contests, betting on who could behead more civilians. The Japan Times cites a soldier's diary. "I sliced through a girl's neck like butter, her head rolling into the gutter." The Bataan Death March was equally vile. POWs forced a march in a scorching sun, denied water, their bodies littering the road. One American survivor, quoted in the National World War II Museum, said, "They'd shoot you for looking at them wrong, then laugh as your buddy bled out." Unit 731's experiments were the stuff of nightmares. Prisoners dissected alive, infected with anthrax, their screams muffled by gags. Tojo's approval of these, per Tokyo trial records, was explicit, necessary for military progress. This wasn't war. It was a sadistic crusade, a reflection of psyche that saw suffering as proof of power. Tojo's reign crumbled as Japan's losses mounted. Saipan's fall in July 1944 forced his resignation. his dream of empire in ashes. When Japan surrendered in September 1945, General Douglas MacArthur ordered his arrest. Tojo tried to cheat justice, shooting himself in the chest with an American .38 pistol, aiming for a charcoal mark drawn by a doctor. The bullet missed his heart, lodging in his stomach. As blood soaked his shirt, he told reporters, "I am very sorry it has taken me so long to die." Saved by American blood transfusions, he faced the Tokyo trials in 1946. Convicted of waging aggressive war and crimes against humanity, Tojo accepted full responsibility. "I bear entire responsibility for the war." On December 23, 1948, he was hanged in Sugamo prison, his body later buried at Yasukuni Shrine, a controversial resting place for war criminals. Tojo's death wasn't just an execution. It was a philosophical riddle. From an existentialist view, he was an absurd hero, creating meaning in a chaotic world by embracing militarism, only to face the void of defeat. Nietzsche might see him as a will of power gone rogue, his ambition devouring millions in a futile quest for godhood. Yet Sartre would call him out for bad faith, hiding behind duty to dodge his choice's weight. Tojo's unyielding belief in Japan's righteous war, even as he faced the gallows, raises a gut-punch question. Can fanaticism blind us to evil? His legacy, revered by some, reviled by millions, mirrors humanity's struggle with power and morality. Was his death justice, or a hollow gesture in an indifferent universe? Tojo's life warns us. When ideology trumps empathy, the monster within us all can take the reins.